Jordnær is the hottest Three-Michelin-Star restaurant in Copenhagen, and it reached that status unusually fast. Knowing the chef's background and how dramatically his life changed adds a lot of context to this meal. From the very first bites, the flavors are confident, assertive, and very precise. Nothing here is trying to be playful. It's about focus and control. The chef has spoken openly about a past in gang life during his youth, and how discovering cooking and later building a life with his wife completely redirected him.
Jordnær opened in 2017, earned its first Michelin star less than 1 year later, a second 2020, and finally 3 stars by 2024. A remarkably fast rise in fine dining.
Alright, enough background introduction. Let's get into the food. The meal begins with a mud crab on a crispy tart, braised in a sudachi emulsion. It's extremely savory, bright, punchy, and very direct. One bite in, and you're fully alert. Next is a poached Danish lobster, topped with ikura, fried kombu, and wasabi flowers. Texturally, it's beautiful, but for me, the ikura was quite overpowering. The saltiness really took over, and the lobster itself became secondary. The third bite is a tuna tartare topped with caviar. This is a classic combination: clean, refreshing, and deeply umami. It works, and it's comforting in a very controlled way. Before the next bite, can we please take a moment to appreciate the containers? These are absolute masterpieces. I genuinely haven't seen anything like this anywhere else. They feel intentional, sculptural, and enhances the experience. We continue with a bleak roe over a creamy emulsion. Unfortunately, I don't remember the exact base, but flavor-wise, this one is again very savory, very strong, and very forward. The last bite is a play on takoyaki. Takoyaki is a traditional Japanese street food. Batter balls cooked in round molds filled with octopus. Here the octopus is replaced with lobster, and it's topped with caviar and truffle. It's clever, but here the caviar and truffle slightly take over the dish. The idea is clear, but the balance leans heavy. I was also a bit sad that we did not get to try one of their signature dishes, the rosette waffle. A beautiful dish, fried in a Japanese beer batter and filled with fjord shrimp topped with caviar. Maybe next time. From these opening bites, it's clear that Japanese cooking has a strong influence on the chef. There's a lot of Japanese elements in the dish, from the sudachi emulsion to the takoyaki. That said, taken together, the appetizers lean a little too much on the salty side for me. Many of the preparations feel overwhelmed by salt. And to be fair, I'm partially to blame here. They offered us a glass of champagne at the start, which I turned down because I was jet lagged and didn't want to fall asleep. With champagne, I suspect some of these bites would have felt more balanced. Moving into the savory courses, the first is a scallop, topped with Japanese clove. It's served in a broth made from gooseberry gel and rosewater. This is a stark contrast to the opening bites. The flavors are restrained, almost quiet. The scallop paired with the rose comes across slightly bittersweet, and the broth is refreshing rather than savory. It feels like a reset. Next is a dish called Essence of Langoustine. At the center is a gel made from the langoustine head, finished with tomato water. This one is clever. The langoustine gel is deeply concentrated, almost distilled, and the tomato broth softens it beautifully. It's refreshing, balanced, and very controlled. One of the more thoughtful dishes so far. Then comes an oyster with dill and wasabi oil. The oyster itself is very flavorful and well chosen, but when I took a sip of the broth on its own, the wasabi oil really dominated. It became quite spicy, almost overpowering. The oyster holds up, but the balance leans heavily toward heat. Next is a poached lobster with a butter-based sauce and flowers on top. The lobster is cooked perfectly, soft, tender, but still with a nice bite. Technically, there's nothing to fault here. Flavor-wise, though, it felt a little simple. Pleasant, well executed, but not especially memorable. Up next is a preparation of hamachi. In the center are 3 pieces of aged hamachi sashimi. At the bottom is a ravioli made from hamachi belly and oyster, finished with a ponzu sauce. The sashimi is good, but not surprising. The ravioli, though, is exceptional. The fattiness and umami of the hamachi belly really pop. A true gem hiding underneath. Next is the chef's Nordic take on chawanmushi. Chawanmushi is a classic Japanese dish made from steamed egg, known for its silky texture and subtle, comforting flavors. The chef's take includes king crab, shiso flower, and finger lime. The broth is very savory, and the finger lime brings the acidity needed to balance it out. This isn't a traditional chawanmushi, but I like the interpretation. And given that it's winter in Copenhagen, this one dish really stands out. If you enjoy thoughtful, honest, fine dining reviews like this, consider subscribing. I post more of these from around the world. Then comes the bread. A French brioche, very soft, beautifully made. You can see how flaky and fresh it is. Simple, but excellent. Next is a grilled turbot, brushed with walnut oil. The sauces are made from the fish and its bones, and also from the scallops we had earlier. It's topped with caviar and truffle. Unfortunately, the fish itself is a bit dry and not very flavorful on its own. And I am not sure whether the caviar and truffle work here. This is the third time caviar appears on the menu, and the second time it's paired with truffle. That kind of cheat code combination feels excessive for a restaurant of this caliber. I actually ended up with too much caviar, and I used the bread to mop it off the plate. Maybe that was the intention, who knows. The final savory is the langoustine tail, the same langoustine we saw earlier. This time, it's grilled over charcoal and brushed with a spicy yuzu sauce. The presentation is extremely simple. I was expecting a side dish, but there isn't one. And honestly, it doesn't need it. The langoustine is cooked perfectly, soft, bouncy, and incredibly sweet. The spicy yuzu adds just enough heat and savoriness. This is one of the best langoustine dishes I've ever had. We then move on to the desserts. The first dessert is a take on tropical fruits. Mango sorbet on top, with a crispy base and passion fruit underneath. It's light, refreshing, and a nice transition into the dessert portion of the menu. The second dessert is where things really come together. This is a milk parfait and vanilla, shaped like a honeycomb. Each cell is filled with either lavender gel or honey, mimicking an actual honeycomb structure. Up close, the texture is incredible, and flavor-wise, it's just as impressive. Delicate, balanced, and deeply satisfying. This feels like a true showcase of technique. The meal ends with petit fours, bonbons, slices of Japanese muskmelon, and baked goods. What stood out to me here is that the cannelé and the madeleine are freshly baked. That level of care, even at the very end of the meal, really shows dedication and hospitality.
Now my final thoughts on Jordnær.
Overall, this meal had very high highs. Some dishes were incredibly strong and bold, while others just weren't my personal favorites. At times, it felt like the chef was throwing punches at me. Explosive flavors, full force. The good kind of punches, of course. Knowing his past and how much intensity he brings to everything he does, that approach actually makes sense. At around $640 per person, this is a serious meal, and one that clearly isn't trying to please everyone. I'm curious what you think. Do you prefer bold, uncompromising flavors like this, or more restrained? Let me know in the comments. It is also quite different from another 3-star restaurant that I reviewed before. You should watch that one too. If you like contents like this, I have a few more coming next. Some of those experiences will surprise you. See you in the next one.